Well, welcome back. I mean, you've been here before, so you got to I guess word the stuff different. But it's Vegas. You've done it again. But how was preparation for this camp? How are we feeling? What's going on?
Um, Camp was great. I mean, for me, going through training camp is like one of those things that I have to mold myself into the fighter I want to be on fight night. So for training camp for me, is making it as difficult as possible. If I have week after week of having great days in training camp, for me that wasn't a good training camp. That wasn't a successful training camp. I need training camp to be as difficult as possible to prepare me emotionally, physically, mentally for what's going to happen on fight night. And I feel like this training camp did just that. I mean, there's literally been days that I was walking out of the gym in tears, head down, not wanting to do with anyone because of how difficult the training was. And for me, I feel like that's a recipe for success. There's nothing that can happen on Saturday night that I'm not prepared for mentally, physically, emotionally at this point.
Is this something that you have to? You've seen all kinds of names. I don't think there's anything that we can throw at you as a surprise. But the fact that after all this time in the game as a veteran, you still take your craft that serious to where you're like, nah, they're not. They're not going to catch me slipping on this one. I don't care what the name is. I'm Neil Magny. I've been here for quite some time. I still got a couple tricks up my sleeve.
Yeah, I mean, I have to. I have to continue to evolve, fight at the fight, camp at the camp. I mean, my last fight for Mike Malott, for example, going into that fight, he's a guy that finishes fights in the early rounds of the fight. He had a lot of first-round finishes, second-round finishes, very rarely seen in the third round. So in preparation for that fight, I had about 20 minutes, 25 minutes total of fight film to me to actually view of him to game plan for. Where on the opposite end, he had 9 hours of UFC footage alone to formulate a game plan for me. So going into that fight, you can definitely tell who would have the edge as far as preparation goes, as far as what my tactics and techniques could be. So in training camp, I'm forced to have to evolve and supposed to have to find a different version of myself going into these different fights. Otherwise, it makes it a lot more difficult for me to be successful. It makes it a lot more easier for me to be predictable for my opponents.
Yes, sir. You mentioned a different version of yourself. Your opponent actually matches up really well. He could be dynamic just like you. He's got hands. He could be powerful. What was the reaction like when that name came across on the contract?
Excitement, pure excitement. As soon as I saw the name, as soon as I saw the record, I was like, cool, let's do it. This is I know a lot of people saying this is a test for Mike Morales of the fact that he's fighting a veteran, that kind of thing. It's a test for me as well. It's a very difficult fight. It's a very difficult matchup. He fought, he's undefeated for a reason. He's undefeated in UFC for a reason. So when I saw that matchup, I was like, all right, cool. The bar just got set pretty high, and I'm going to do my best to go out there and just knock it out the park.
Did you bring, yes, sir, speaking of knockouts, did you bring anybody specific for this training camp to mimic Morales?
Not specifically having training partners that would mimic it, but I definitely had my coaches really hone in and try to focus on some of the tactics and techniques that they felt would be successful for this fight. So even though there's not a specific person that do it, there are very specific techniques and tactics that are being used, implemented throughout training camp for Mike Morales on Saturday.
Besides the experience factor, that's obviously like a no-brainer. Do you feel like being here before, under the bright lights, doing countless media days, the attraction that it gets and everything, that you at least have that mental edge going into this fight?
Even when it comes to the fight, yes, every fight's be more difficult as far as the preparation for it and that kind of thing. But even the mental part of it as well, that's preparation as well. Even some of the questions you get asked, I even asked all week, where it's like, oh, another up and comer, another this, another that. It's it'll be easy for me to get complacent and say oh yeah, just another up and comer. I've faced a test before. I fought a striker before. I've seen this kind of test before. But each individual opponent is different and have to take it very seriously. Not take a moment for granted. And with Mike Morales, I feel like I'm doing just that. I'm locked in physically, emotionally, mentally, and I feel like I'm in a great place right now to go out and get it done on Saturday.
Man, I'm excited for it. And last for me, what can we expect? What new tricks up your sleeve, or just that classic Neil Magny that's going to come and bring it and make people happy, and we got to tune in 15 minutes.
Yeah, it'd be a great fight. I mean, my last fight, I used the analogy of watching Vin Diesel in a Fast and Furious movie, where it's he's always racing the other guy, and the other guy has that slight edge, and he hits that NOS button, and it's just oh no, Vin Diesel's gonna finally lose the race, and Vin Diesel always sits back and says ha, too soon, I got you, and it's sprints off to the finish line. I feel like this is what this fight's gonna be exactly. I'm gonna go out there and really showcase my entire skill set from grappling to striking to wrestling. It's gonna go out there and be a really involved version of myself on Saturday night.
All right, man. Can't wait to see it. Good luck, and let's win this fight a quarter mile at a time.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
And Neil.
Yes, sir.
So you said that you're excited to fight Michael Morales, and then you kind of said, you're talking about like another undefeated. But when Sean Shelby hits you up and said, "All right, you're fighting this Michael Morales," like, is there something that's like, dude, another undefeated prospect, another hot prospect that everyone is like excited to fight? Like, is there like some, I guess, some emotion like why? Like, can I get a veteran like myself? Can I get someone else like that?
No, I mean, at this point, I'm a man on a mission. And literally, when Sean Shelby sends the email, it's literally, that's my assignment. Like, literally, the email came through. It was a name and a date and a location. My response, like, cool, thank you. And literally was my response in the email. It wasn't like, can we do this? Can we do that? I was like, perfect, thank you, I'll be there. For me, that's the excitement of it all. Like, there'll be a day where I do have to start picking my opponents and getting a favorite match and that kind of thing. But when that point comes in my career, the conversation with myself and my coaching becomes completely different. I'm not that phase of my career yet. I'm still evolving. I'm still getting better. I still have a lot to get accomplished in this sport. So I'm not at the point in my career I feel like I have to pick and choose my opponents just yet.
Were you open to fight on that Denver card?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I was like, oh, please get Denver, please get Denver. It's like, nah, but how about a month later? I was like, close one. But same thing, same opportunity to go out there, put on a great performance to be able to, like, call the shots as far as, like, where my next fight could be, possibly.
What do you think of Bilal Muhammad when winning the title?
It was a great fight. I mean, a lot of people thought I was crazy when I called that fight prior to it. I was like, yeah, dude, the wrestling pressure Bilal was be too much for Leon Edwards. And it was just like, you're crazy, bro. There's no way. But he went out there and got it done. I mean, I'm not a guy that's to be a hater ever. I'll give credit where it's due. And Bilal definitely went out there and got it done. And hats off to him for getting it done.
It seems like he's going to fight Shavkat next. And with you fighting Shavkat, how do you kind of see that fight playing out?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Shavkat fight would be a lot more difficult for him because he can't strictly rely on his wrestling to carry him through. Like, Shavkat's a very rangy striker, and he's able to do really well in the clinch and the grappling as well. I don't think Bilal will have as much of a I don't think it'll be as easy as him to control the grappling as he did against Leon Edwards and some other opponents against a guy like Shavkat. So if I were to have to be a betting man in that fight, I'd probably bet on Shavkat in that fight.
Thank you.
No problem.
Hello, Magny. Greetings from Ecuador.
Ecuador, eh?
Ecuador. Yes,
what are
sir.
you rooting for?
We are from Ecuador, my friend. So, seems like you are the key for the rankings in your division for all these newcomers. How do you feel about it?
For me, it's like you either, like, I can't be a hypocrite. There's a lot of these guys that are in the rankings that kind of sit there and try to protect their rankings and do everything else like that. I've never had that mindset. I've always been trying to get to the next step, get to the next ranking, get to the next level kind of thing. So if that means having to protect my spot in order to do so, I'll do it. I mean, there's been times that I fought an unranked fighter and I moved up one spot in the rankings. If I have to do that 10 times to move up 10 slots, I'll do it, or whatever. So I'll never be a hypocrite to say, like, oh, you should only fight ranked guys if you're ranked or that kind of thing. I'll be the guy that either, lack better words, shits to get off the pot. Like, maybe they're going to be out there defending my spot, or I'm just going to, like, move out of the way, let someone else take over.
How do you think about Michael as a fighter?
He's a great fighter. I mean, the guy is 16-0 for a reason. He's a very talented, well-rounded fighter. He's undefeated in the UFC for a reason. He's a very talented guy, and he's definitely an opponent that I could not take lightly for sure.
He was working a little bit with Bilal before this fight. Does it mean something for you?
Not at all. I mean, at this point, I've fought and competed against every major camp throughout, not just the U.S., but the world at this point. I fought the best guys from China to Russia, down to South America, back up to Canada. So at this point, I've seen everything the world has to offer as far as, like, tactics and techniques and that kind of thing. At the end of the day, it's going to come down to who wants it the most, and I guarantee I would come out successful on Saturday night.
So Michael is a very humble kid and very respectful for with all his rivals. But he had a little fight in social media with Ian Gary Machado because he was disrespectful with you. Does it mean? Did you know that it means something for you? I just asked him, and Michael has a lot of respect for you.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's all love and respect for me and all my opponents. I mean, I've never been a guy to go out there. Like, I know a lot of fighters like to give themselves that technique. I'm going to war. I'm going to try to knock this guy's head off. I'm going to try to be violent. That was never my MO at all. For me, it was always going out there and giving the best version of myself. I mean, there's been times where I literally helped my opponent prior to us fighting in order for him to be his best version of himself when we fought. To give an example, when I fought in New Zealand against Rodrigo de Lima, we were both backstage waiting to get drug tested for our fight, and the guy's just kind of laying there dehydrated, unable to pee, and I'm just like, dude, like, what are you doing? Here, drink some Gatorade, drink some water. I went and actually got him his Gatorade and his water to help him hydrate prior to us fighting. So for me, it was never any kind of hostility or bad blood for me to go out there and be motivated to beat my opponent. It's always been about me going out there and perform to the best of my ability. So I definitely appreciate the fact that he's a humble fighter. He's more so wanting to test himself and not necessarily worry about all the other nonsense. It makes my job, my life a lot easier, not having to deal with all the other antics or tactics. But my head off to him. I much respect him as well.
Last one. What's the most dangerous thing about you for this Saturday?
Everything. I mean, this is a fight that I'm excited for. I'm very excited to go out there and perform on Saturday night. I feel excited for where this fight ends up, whether it's on the feet, on the ground, wrestling, clinch, wherever this fight goes. I feel I'm going to be able to get the edge in that fight, and I can't wait to go out there and show it on Saturday night.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Neil, over here.
Yes, sir.
After your last fight, which was a phenomenal win, people talk a lot about the emotional aspect, the mental aspect of elite athletes, professional athletes, all the pressure. How did that win after the loss to Ian Machado Gary? How did that win by knockout make you feel emotionally, mentally, and how has that, translated and traveled all the way here a few days before your next fight?
For me, I'm always been my biggest critic. I mean, even in going back to the Ian Gary fight, after that fight, I literally had to sit there and look at the outcome of it and say, man, that fight sucked. I sucked in that fight. It was terrible. It was a terrible fight. And then I had to ask myself, like, wow, that fight it wasn't a representation of who I see myself as an athlete or as a fighter or as a person at all. I had to really ask myself, why was that the outcome? And I go back to my preparation for that fight, where I was at mentally and things like that. And it just I didn't put the work in for that fight. I didn't do the things that were necessary to beat the best guys in the world, and the result spoke for itself. So going to preparation for guys like Mike Morales and that kind of thing, I made it very important for me to make sure I focus on the preparation, literally put myself through the most difficult things possible to kind of ensure my success come Saturday night. You can ask my coach and training partners. There's literally been days that I'm like leaving the gym in tears because the training was that difficult, where it's just like, damn, dude, is it be okay? Like, is Nick gonna be all right this training camp? Like, what's going on? But being able to take things with a grain of salt and really assess myself and realize where that growth is going to need to take place and be coachable when it comes to what my coaches and training partners are telling me. So what allows for that evolution to keep getting the best version of myself.
If you take into account every major aspect of the fight game, striking, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, in which areas do you think you're clearly, or would you say you're clearly better than Michael, or areas that might give you a specific edge for the Saturday's fight?
For me, I think it's being able to switch and adapt to all three of the major aspects, whether it be wrestling, grappling, or striking. I think one of the things that give me a clear advantage in this fight is the way that I am able to blend those three together flawlessly. I go from striking to wrestling in a drop of a dime, and the same thing from wrestling to grappling. And I think that's going to be the thing that really sets me apart come Saturday night. A lot of guys are able to train specific techniques and tactics or disciplines at a time, but not many people are able to blend them as fluidly as I am. And I think that's going to be the real difference maker come Saturday night.
Thank you, Neil. Appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you. Cool. Awesome. Thank you, guys.